All right, so we're back to the wheel, and right now it looks like we are at a standstill. One thing to notice is there's a tooth broken off the sprocket, so we'll need to get a new sprocket. There is a lot of scoring in the brake drum area, so we'll need to get a new hub. And the rim's already pitted down here. Where is it? It's already pitted down around the valve stem area, so obviously it had some water there, and just from sitting over the years. And realistically, the spokes, should be checked for tightness and all that anyway, but I find when replacing spokes on a motorcycle, it's best to just cut them off and put on new ones. So what we're going to do is, just so we can keep this thing rolling, we're going to go ahead and put the tire back on it. We'll put the pads in. The pads are cheap. They're like 20 bucks. So it's not a big deal to put the pads back in and then just get another set later on when we get the new tire and wheel, or the wheel, hub, spoke, and rim assembly and the new sprocket. So we'll have to order a sprocket for it and see what's available for the rim assembly. I'm sure that there's something out there. It was something that was planned to be done anyway, so we'll probably just get this as a roller, get it running on the new motor, because the motor is going to be rebuilt, and that we're in the process on that. Figuring out what parts are going to be needed and all that stuff. The bike was completely assembled, so there was no assembly on that. As far as the spare motor was basically completely assembled, disassembled in a box. So there's nothing to do on that other than just checking the specs on everything and having things rebuilt. So that gets done, and we start the assembly process. I'll show you that process. And then later on, this motor that's on the bike currently will get rebuilt. And at that point, we'll go ahead and go through the process of disassembly and show you guys that. But realistically, this is just to keep the bike rolling right now, so it's not in the way of putting my wife's car in the garage and so on. So right now what I'm going to do is go ahead and put the tire back on it, put the new rubber on. We should be able to get the bike rolling with that and call it good. So anyway, that is what we're going to do. Alright. Just need a wrench here, pull off the spoke, or pull off this nut. And here is the tire. So this is the side of the rim. It's going to rotate in this direction. These tires are directional tires. They rotate in that direction. This is a universal tire. It could be either a front or rear. If it's in the rear, it would rotate this way. In the front, it would rotate in this direction. And then if it's in the rear, it rotates in that direction. So we're going to go ahead and get this put on. And I'm going to see if I can get it on just the way it is right now. But I might have to get some soapy water in a bottle and spray that in here to get it on. But in fact, I already think I'm going to do that. So let me just get that together here. I think I have that already set up somewhere. And I do. Just need to get a little water. I'll be right back. Sorry, you guys. All right. Again, sorry about that. Just needed to get a bottle of water here and put a drop of soap in it. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and spray around the tire. So it slips on easily. And get my tire irons here. and get that on. Work on it in this direction. Excuse me. Really see here. Trying not to damage it anymore. I'd like it to look at least somewhat good while we're putting it together. But in this case, I just feel like this rim and tire assembly is not going to work, especially since everything seems to be overly worn out on it. And basically just work our way around the tire and wheel. And you get this tire on here. It's not too bad. Nice brush rubber makes a huge difference. And that's half the battle right there. Well, not half, but a good portion of it. So now what I need to do is find where the valve stem goes in, and it's over there on that side. So I'm going to put that in. Basically lay the new tube down. Start feeding it in. A lot of people do this different ways. Not sure I'm going to advise you one way or the other, but some people pump up the inner tube a little bit. I just try to get it in there and lay it in to where it's around the outside, kind of, I don't know, how would you explain it, the outer third of the tire, and then get it fed on. One of the problems you'll run into is you'll pinch a tube and, you know, ruin a tube. So don't want to do that. But basically, I'll leave this out for now as I'm feeding this in. But basically what I do is I just feed it around the tire here. A lot of times the tire will have a spot on it where it's heavier, and that's supposed to be the valve stem. Usually you'll see a dot of some sort. So, you know, you look for that if it's on the tire. I don't see one on this tire currently. Nothing on the other side. So if there's no dot on the tire, that usually depicts where the valve stem is, where you line the tire up to the valve stem for balancing purposes. I think that at this point, this tire is pretty round. They haven't marked it in any way like that. But if you're going to do that, you're going to put in a tire, you know, you want to balance it. I have some weights that I could put on. You know, you can do it a couple different ways. You put spoke weights on, or you can do rim weights. I think the spoke weights probably look a little bit better. I have a truing stand, so if I need to true up the, you know, tire and wheel combination, I can do that. You know, you typically just spin it on the truing stand and see where it stops, and if it stops at the same spot every time, then basically it will, it's heavy on that part, so you add some weights to the light side and spin it. The idea is you spin it several times and it stops in different areas. Not always the case, because you'll end up with a situation sometimes where the bearings will kind of have their own natural resting spot and things like that. So you won't always get that type of reaction to the balancing of the wheel, but for the most part you can kind of tell when it's kind of natural. It'll spin longer, it doesn't slow down and speed up and slow down and speed up. It just kind of has a, you know, steady rotation around the tire on the truing stand. So anyway, what we're doing now is putting in the tube, and it's got this retainer that goes in there as well. Feed that on. And then typically what I find is if I can get it kind of close, I can use a screwdriver to coax it in place. Just a small screwdriver. So I'll get that. Looking for a small flathead here. Just something that coax it in position. Then what I'm trying to do is just coax it in position here. I see it over there. What's happening is it's kind of being held up by the rubber band inside that basically protects you from the spokes damaging your inner tube. So I'm just trying to coax it into position here. Well, this might take a little bit. What I would call a fiddly job, or a... Let's get the stuff out of the way there. I see it right there, and it's close. Actually, what I could probably do, as long as I don't put too much pressure on the threads, is I could probably just get a hold of it there and coax it over. But I don't know, I'm a little worried about doing that. There it went. There it went. And I'm not trying to grab a hold of the thread. I'm just trying to get it to push over to the valve stem and drop in, and then I can put a nut on it. I'm close. I am close, but not close enough. See here if I am even on it now. No, it doesn't look like it. All right, well, you guys get the idea. I'm going to mess around with this for a little bit. Get the tube lined in there. I'm going to try to get the valve stem in the valve stem hole first. Then get the tube into the tire out of the way, so when I finally use the tire irons to put the tire on the rest of the way, basically it'll end up, I won't pinch the tube, I won't put a hole in it, and then I can inflate the tire. And I'll inflate it 2 or 3 times and deflate it, so basically it kind of works itself into position. All right, I'll bring you back later. Okay, thanks, bye.